Well, hello there. Okay, I'm going to show you how to make the Billowing Waves hat. And we'll be doing 2 of my stitches. That's all we need for the hat. And the first stitch we're going to do for the brim is called Linky Square Stitch. It's an easy stitch, done in 1 row, and certainly doesn't need any purls or anything in the hat brim. But we're going to start by doing a chain cast on, which is my favorite cast on for hats. It just looks so nice. So I did a slip knot. Working yarn is coming from behind here, and I mean the tail is coming from behind. The working yarn is coming in front, and we're just going to take our loom hook, stick it into the loop, and scoop up a loop through the working yarn, just like that. Actually, I'm going to show you my yarn. So this is called Spiced Apple, and it's just a Karen chunky cake. It's the tea cake line, so Karen tea cakes right here. And I thought it was spiced apple. Let's take a look. Yep, it's spiced cider. Okay, there you go. Oh, beautiful colors, and it looks really nice in the stitch. But I also did the stitch with Charisma, and it worked really nice there too, so I also know that that one works. Anyway, here's our loop, back to our chain, and we just go behind the peg, take the working yarn, and just pull it through and tighten it up. Through and tighten it up. Back behind, there's your loop, working yarn through, pull, and just tighten it up. And I always like to check to make sure my tension that I'm using is going to be perfect. And this looks good. It looks like I'd be able to pull it over, and yet it's tight. So I'm happy with that, so I'm going to keep going. Just like that. There's your loop behind the peg and just pulling the working yarn through. It's a very easy cast on, and you can see it's producing this nice chain kind of effect. You can see it on the other side too. And so it's just going to make a really nice brim, especially if we use the right stitches with it. Okay, so we're just going to keep going around, and then I will meet you up back at the starter peg. Well, just before the starter peg, I'll show you how to end this cast on. Okay, here we've made it to the end here, and we just go behind the last peg, tighten it up, and then we just take the loop and just lay it over, and we can just cinch it up there. And then I'm just going to take my loom hook, knit it over, and that will secure it, and we are cast it on. And then I guess it would be nice if I actually showed you the loom that I'm doing this on. So it's a 36 peg Cindywood loom, 3/4 inch gauge. This knits up, about average size, so you'd use your normal size that you like for a hat loom. Okay, now the next thing we're going to do is we're going to do a row of purl. There we go. Lost my loom hook for a minute. So we're just going to put our yarn hook into the yarn just like the way we did when we cast it on. And we're going to pull up a loop, and then we're going to take this all off the top and just slip the loop over, and that's your purl. And there's lots of videos on purl. I'm not going to go into it too much. But we're just going to do a row of purl, so I'm just scooping it up, and I'll do one close up here. Scooping up the yarn, bringing it up so you can see the loop here, and just laying it over the top and tightening it. Over the top and tightening it. So we're just going to do a row of purl, and I'll meet you back here. Okay, so I finished the row here, and now we just do a row of U-wrap. So just like this. Okay, so I'll meet you back here and we'll start doing the brim of the hat. Okay, and that completes our cast on sequence. And now we're just going to go into the brim, and the stitch we're going to use is called Linky Squares. It's the second stitch I ever created, so I've been using it for a long time, and I really like this stitch. So we're at peg 1. I'm going to move this closer. Can't keep it here for too long, it gets awkward, but here we go. Whatever peg we're on, we're going to call peg 1, and then we're going to go behind peg 2, behind peg 3, and just wrap it in front. And we don't want it too tight. We don't want the stitch to get too tight, so keep it loose. It'll look fine if it's tight too. You're just going to have a harder time knitting it over. Now we're always going to, in this version, I have a few different ways of doing this, but in this version we want it to be a tighter stitch going around for our brim. So what we're going to do is we're going to wrap over the number 2 peg first, and then we're going to wrap over number 3 peg. So here we are at number 1, behind 2, behind 3, wrap it in front, knit over 2 peg, and then knit over 3 peg. And so we're at 1, we're going over 3 and 2. Now if we did it the other way, we're not going to have it as tight. This will make it tighter. This is the tightest you can make the stitches, wrapping it this way. Okay, and so we're at peg 1, behind 2 and 3, keeping it loose because we don't want the stitch to tighten up on you. It has a tendency to get tighter, so important that you, if it does start to get tight, you can loosen it up, because if you just start wrapping looser again within a row, it will loosen up for you. Okay. And I'll do one more. We're at peg 1, wherever the yarn is. We're going behind 2 and 3, in front of 2 and 3, knitting over 2 first, then knitting over 3. So each peg is getting 2 stitches on it. So knitting 1 row is like knitting 2. So this stitch goes really, really fast. Gotta like that, right? And just keep going. Okay, and I'll do it once more. We're on peg 1, behind 2 and 3, over 2 and 3, knit them off. The working yarn is now at what was our 2 peg, but it becomes our 1 peg. So 1, behind 2 and 3, over 2 and 3, and knit over. Okay, so now all you're going to do is keep going around and around and around till you get the length of brim you want. I tend to like brims that are between 1.5 and 2 inches, so I just measure, and when the brim gets about that long, I'm done. But for this hat, you can have as any kind of brim you want. You can have a very short brim, you can have a longer brim, whatever you like will be just fine. So just do the brim the length you want, and I'll meet you up, and then we'll start the body of the hat. Okay, so here we are with our brim, and I only went around, I think, 4 times to get a little bit over a 2-inch brim. So here's what it looks like, and of course it's stretched out on the loom, so it's going to look more like that on the hat. And the other side looks like this, and when you're wearing it, it will look like this, because this hat can be reversible if you want. And I'm just going to show you the flat panel I'm making of it so you can see the different stitches on it. Okay, so here's your billowing wave stitch, and you can see the wave pattern. turn it different angles so you can see it. So it's got a lot of texture, and these waves just float up. But here's the other side. So it's like a bunch of braids in a kind of a rib. So it is really beautifully reversible. So this kind of a rib look would be going with this inside of the hat. And the wave side will be going with this side. And they're related because Linky Squares is part of this pattern. Okay, so I'm just going to put this away and show you the next thing we do. Quiet. Okay, so here we are. And now what we're going to do is our Linky Squares. Now, if we were to go all the way to here to wrap it the normal way, what's going to happen is the hole is going to be a lot bigger here, and it's going to be all the way up your work, and that's not what we want. So what we're going to do instead is just go over one here instead of two. And what we're going to do is just pull the loop here like this to tighten it up. See, I'm pulling it out quite far, and put it over, and then just slip it over. and then we go over 2. And so here's where you're going to see the modification. We're not going to knit peg 2 off. We're going to knit peg 3 off first. And when we knit it off, we're going to pull it and put that loop over like that, and then just ease it over. And then we're at peg 1, we're behind 2 and 3 over, and we're going to go to peg 3 and pull this out, and then just slip this over. Okay, so that's the modification. And that's what we'll be doing all the way through. 1 row of purl, 1 row of this modified linky square stitch. So behind 2 and 3, over, pull up, and just ease the stitch over. The stitch will be a little tight to go over, but not too bad because you've been keeping the purl loose, right? Okay, over, and just slip it over. Pull over, slip it over. Now you see as we're going along, these don't seem like they're buckled up like I did here, because as we've gone, it's tightened it up. But what it has done is it's made this, so if I'm pointing in this loop here and this loop here equal, which isn't what you normally see in the linky squares because one is longer. So this is what's going to push it up above the work with the purl, having them look like this. So here we are in peg 1, over 3 and 2, pulling on this, putting it over, and just slipping this over. Okay, very easy to do, really. You'll get the hang of it real quick. You just zip along, and remember you're doing 2 rows when you do a stitch like this. It actually goes really, really fast. And so I'll go over the stitch once more. You're on peg 1, behind 2, behind 3, over them, but you're going to knit 3 off first, and you're going to pull up the yarn and then just slip 2 over. Okay, pull up the yarn and just slip 2 over. Pull up the yarn and slip it over. Okay, I'll meet you up somewhere here on the other side to go back into the purl. Okay, so here we are, and I just wrapped these 2. So this one was only going to have 1 wrap on it when you came down, and it's got the bigger loop right here. So what you're going to do is just go over it. You're behind it. You're going to go in front of just it. And this is not a pulled stitch. You just put it over, and then you're going to take the working yarn, give it a little tug because we don't want to have a hole here, and then do your first purl right there. And that's going to keep it from getting a big hole here. So what we're trying to do, because we're switching stitches, is keep it so any holes are small. Any differences in stitches are small areas, so you're not going to pick them up. I mean, it's the back of the hat, but there's nothing more unattractive than great big holes all along the back if someone catches a glimpse of it, and we want it to just blend in. And we're changing stitches, so it's always important. So there, so that's how you go into doing the purl again. Okay, and then when you come around, you'll be doing linky squares, and I already showed you how to go into that and do the modified one. And so you're just going to keep doing a row of purl, a row of the modified linky squares. And if for some reason you miss a step and it does look like a little bit of a hole, you can fix that after so it's less noticeable. You just cut a piece of your yarn that was the same color, and you just go where the hole is and just kind of weave it in, you know, in between to make it smaller, and weave your ends in, and that's a way you can fix any work if you've done something when you've gone from one stitch to the other and it has created a hole. So there is always a way to fix it, so don't worry. That's all I can say for that. And so yes, one row of purl, one row of the modified linky squares. And what you're going to do is you're going to knit it as long as you like your hats to be. So I like mine usually on a bulkier yarn, and even on some other yarns, I like them to be 9 inches, which for my tiny head makes a slouchy hat. For most women's head, that's going to be a beanie. But with bulky yarn, I only like a little slouch, so it's about 9. When I'm using a worsted weight and I want a bulky hat, I do 10 or 11, depending how bulky I want it. But you do the hat size you like for bulky yarn. Like I say, most women are taking a size 9, and if you are size 9 inches long, and if you have a big head, you might want to do 10 inches. So we'll meet up when you have the length of the hat that you want, and it's going to be pretty exciting watching the waves pop up on the outside. Like, we haven't done it. Well, we're starting to have it actually. I'll see if you can see it. See? Our waves are popping up right in here. So you can see them starting to pop up. So yeah, it'll be pretty exciting seeing them pop up. I found it really exciting on the first one I did. So okay, we'll meet up when we're ready to bind off, and I'll see you then. Okay, I just stopped in again for a minute just to show you what it's starting to look like. Here's our wave. Our billowing wave stitch right there, and there's the brim leading into it. So there you go, and I'll even come around to the wrong side, you know, where you've had to attach it, and it's never going to look exactly the same, but see, it looks fine when you've actually made sure that you don't leave the holes there. So there you go. And okay, so I'll meet you back then when we've done it. Oh yeah, I'll show you where we are too on this side, because this side looks really nice. So if you want a reversible hat, there's what your brim's going to look like, and there's your stitches for the hat. Lots of texture. Okay, so we'll see you when we're ready to bind off. Okay, so here we are. I'm at my just slight titch under my 9 inches, so I'm ready to bind off. Now we want to end on a purl row, so if you ended on the linky square modified row, just do 1 row of purl, and then after that we're just going to do a row of E-wrap. So just going to E-wrap around the loom and then knit them off. And I'm just doing a bind off that will eliminate the top being too heavy. So we'll just have a little bit looser instead of a thick bind off. And oh, there's my row of V-wrap. Knit the last one off so the working yarn's held. And then I'm just going to go around and knit them off. So I'm going to put you back on pause, and I'm just going to meet you when we do the next part of the bind off. Okay, so here we are. We've done our row of E-wrap. Now we're just going to be binding it off. So we're going to take the yarn off peg 1, and we're going to bring it over and pop it on peg 2, and that shouldn't be too hard to do. It's pretty easy to do after E-wrap. And then we're just going to knit it off. Then we're going to go to the peg next, which is peg 3. Take that, put it on peg 4, and just knit over. Okay, and then we go to the next peg. So we're always going to be going 1 peg over from the last peg we knit over, bringing it over, and knitting it off. So we're reducing our yarn that's on our pegs by half, so we're going to be reducing half the thickness of the drawstring bind off. Okay, so we're just going to do this all the way around. Goes quite fast actually. like I'm already a third of the way around. I really like this bind off because it's fast, it's easy to do, and with so few loops with your drawstring, it's really easy to drawstring it in evenly. So, looks like I reduced a little bit too much there, but that's okay. I put it down and I'm back where I'm supposed to be. That's what happens when you're talking a lot. There. And so I'm just going to pay a little bit more attention here to what I'm doing. This is a pretty easy process. I shouldn't mess it up. But boy, we are almost done. Isn't that a good feeling? I did it again. Got to go to the next one. You can tell when you're doing that because it's really tight. You can't really drag it over, so you know right away, whoops, what am I doing? Okay, there we are. So we are reduced by half. Then we're just going to take our working yarn, put it once around and a little bit more, and take a scissors and just cut it. There we go. Okay, and then we're going to get a needle. So I'll be right back as soon as I get a needle. Okay, I got my handy dandy little plastic needle, which is amazing. It's been around, I think, for about 3 weeks now. Usually these needles go missing. They're very bad that way. I imagine one day when we're moving furniture around or something like that, or maybe moving it out, there'll be a bunch of needles on the floor somewhere that we're hiding behind a leg or somewhere. But this one is hung around and I like it. It's very flexible. Okay, so we're just going to take our working yarn now. We've got it threaded through the needle and we're going to go up the yarn that should be on the yarn strand that's on peg 2, and we're just going to scoop it up. And we're going to go to the next peg and scoop it up, and the next peg and scoop it up. That's 36 peg loom, so we're only scooping up 18 pegs. We're going to go all the way around, and then we're going to put the loop again in peg, or we're going to put the yarn in peg 2 again, and then we're all bound off. And I mean, you can take pegs off if you feel like it. I wouldn't go too close to where we started, but you can take them off if you want. They're already caught, so you don't necessarily have to wait, so then you don't have so many to take off at the end. Okay, we're here, so I wouldn't go any closer than about there, and pick up a few more. But you can of course wait and take them all off at the end too. It really doesn't make much difference, whatever you feel like doing. And actually, if you're ever find you cut your yarn too short, this is a way that you can actually use less yarn to pick it up. So see? So you just take a few loops off and you're covered. Okay, so we're going to go here and then just pop the needle in the first one we did, and that's it. Now we can bind off everything. Now if you want it to be reversible, you're going to have to really hide what you do with your yarns and things, and be very careful how you drawstring it. Okay, so this is the good side, but I could do it on either side because I want it to be reversible, and this is what your hat is going to look like. There it is. Pretty nice there, and you can see all your I'll flatten it out a little bit. The way I was holding it kind of did that. And then we're going to take a look at this side, and this is the hat you have on the other side, so you have a completely different look. There it is. And I think we're going to drawstring on this side because it looks like going to look different on this side where we drawstring. So let's drawstring over here and make sure we have it looking attractive if we're going to use this side, because the other side's going to look good no matter what we can see. So here we come in, there we go, and that's going to be an interesting look here by the drawstring. So just going to pull these loops here, just so they won't be kind of so there. Just even out the stitches a little bit, and then pull it up. And then we're going to go down like this. That's going to be an interesting look there at the back, isn't it? I kind of like it. Looks kind of like a, I don't know, star. It's an interesting loopy star pattern. I like it. If you don't like that, when you do yours, just do a couple more rows of E-wrap, and then it'll be E-wrap rows right there. And you won't have that loopy look, but I kind of like it. An interesting look at the back. Let's see if I can get it. There. That is a really interesting look at the back. I like that. So you've got these little loopy stars, and then you've got the bigger star here. Okay. So we want to do this pretty neat because I want to be able to use both sides of this. So I'm going to hold this tight, and then I'm going to put the working yarn just through here, just through the yarns, there. And we're just going to go around in a circle. There, just like that, keeping that looking as neat as we can. Okay. I'm just going to tie a knot through one loop here. There we go. Pull it tight. There we go. And then I like to actually put a couple knots, so just going to go in a little bit more here. And then maybe take string here and put another knot in. Okay, now we're just going to go check the other side, and that's what the other side looks like. So it's nice and thin. There's no bulky place there. And then the other side. Has this quite interesting look on the back. And then we want to hide the yarn. So since this is more bulky, well, not bulky, but more star with more loopy things, it's probably going to be a lot easier to weave in our yarn to hide it. So we've tied a knot, so we just want to weave it in somewhere where you can't see it here and there. So there we go. I'm just going to weave it in, and I'm just going to kind of go around and under places here. Okay. Yeah, I quite like that. Okay. So I'm just going to cut this off now. We've wound it in. And then what we have to do is do something with this one. So I actually already put it through. It was on this side, and I just tucked it through so it wouldn't be on that side anymore. And we're just going to weave it in. And get it out of the road. Okay, so pull it a little bit tight there. There we go. And then I'm just going to weave it through. Okay, and then pull it. There we go. We just kind of hide it there. There. I want to wind it in, weave it in too, near at the back of the hat. Keep everything at the back. There we go. Come back the same way we came. And there we go. It's all woven in. So then we're just going to take our scissors and cut that off. There we go. Then we're just going to stretch out our stitches. So let's stretch them. There we go, and stretch it this way. There we go. Isn't that funny? There was one black piece of yarn in my yarn when they dyed it. This little one strip of black there. It's so funny. But you never know what you're going to get with yarn. And there's the back where you are going to have a slightly different stitch. That's why it's going to be the back. And we're going to look at this side. And then we're going to stretch it out again. There we go. And I'm going to turn it sideways, stretch it out that way, turn it this way, stretch it out. There. Okay, now we're going to look at the finished hat. So it's got the drape to it, and here's their pattern. So let's just kind of get close up and look at the wave pattern. There it is. Very pronounced, just floating here above the pearl. And even see waves upside down here. They look different, but you see them. And so there's our waves. And there's what our brim looks like in a stitch. And we have this chain border here. And then on the other side, okay, we've got this cute little bind off at the back. And it has a little drape and a fall, if that's the way you wear your hats. If you wear them like a beanie, of course you made it beanie, then you know, you've got a hat like that. But here's what your pattern looks like. Your brim looking like this, the pattern of your hat looking like that. So yeah, it's a pretty nice hat. And there you go. There it is. All done. And this is quite a nice stitch, and I did show you it in the flat, so you can use it in projects. It looks pretty much the same, both flat and in the round. So that happens a lot of times when you have a stitch that is 2 rows. It will look the same both ways. So you can mix and match. And there you go. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.